The elevator doors were already closing when she said it. Not loud, not angry, just flat, like a fact you learn too late to use. Does anyone really have a good day once they're old? The doors slid together, and I stood there with my hands still half raised, smiling at nothing. Based on a true story. Images are for illustrative purposes only. Welcome to the One Human, One Story channel.
My name is Synthia. I'm 89 years old, and I've spent more time than I care to admit wondering why that sentence followed me home, why it sat with me at the kitchen table, why it showed up again when I brushed my teeth that night, and again the next morning when I poured coffee into a chipped mug I've owned longer than most friendships. Here's the question that stayed with me, the one that frames everything else. At what point did I start confusing getting through the day with living it? I didn't always think this way. I had a life once that felt forward, not perfect, just moving. I worked with my hands when I was younger. First at a small print shop that smelled like ink and warm paper. Later in offices where the carpet was always the same shade of tired blue. I married a man who laughed too loud in restaurants and drove with one hand on the wheel like he trusted the road to behave. We raised one child, just one, a daughter who used to leave her shoes in the hallway no matter how many times I asked her not to. Our house was nothing special. Thin walls, a back door that stuck in the summer, but it was loud in the evenings, radios on, pots clanging, homework spread across the table like a small disaster. I remember thinking back then that silence was something old people had, something waiting for me far in the future. I was wrong about the timing. The first thing that changed wasn't dramatic. It was small, a missed dinner because of overtime, a weekend I spent catching up on paperwork instead of driving to the lake like we planned, a promise I meant to keep later. Later became my favorite word. I still have the wedding photo. It's tucked into a drawer with old instruction manuals and a single glove I never found the match for. In the picture, I'm leaning into him, my head tilted like I'm listening. Maybe I was. Maybe he was telling me something important. Sometimes I try to remember what we talked about that day, and sometimes nothing comes back. And then nothing. The turning point doesn't arrive with music. It never does. It came on a Tuesday, gray, ordinary. I was driving home thinking about what we'd have for dinner when my phone rang. I pulled over because something in the sound told me to. A voice on the other end used my name carefully, like it might break. After that, time behaved differently. Days stretched, nights collapsed. I learned the layout of hospital corridors by heart, the way the lights buzzed, the way conversations lowered when someone walked by with a chart held too close to their chest. I kept the last voicemail he left me. It's still on an old phone in a drawer. I don't play it often. When I do, it's just his voice asking if I needed milk. That's it. No wisdom, no goodbye, just milk. And then silence again. People tell you that loss makes you strong. What it actually does is make you careful. Careful with joy, careful with plans, careful with saying out loud that you're having a good day, as if the day might overhear and take offense. I went back to work because routine doesn't ask questions. I learned new systems, new faces, younger supervisors who spoke to me slowly, even when I understood perfectly. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I didn't need much anymore. My daughter moved farther away than I expected, not out of anger, just life, jobs, her own family. We talked on Sundays. Then some Sundays got skipped. Then we texted instead, shorter messages, photos of kids growing faster than I could recognize them. I told myself this was normal. I told myself this was the reward for surviving. But there's a cost to surviving quietly. Years later, I found the letter, an old one, written by me to myself, during a night I don't remember clearly. It was folded twice and tucked behind the wedding photo. I must have written it after the funeral. The handwriting shakes. The sentences stop and start. One line reads, "Don't disappear just because no one is looking." I don't remember writing that, but I know I meant it. So when I took the job in long-term care, people assumed it was because I wanted to help. That's part of it. The other part is simpler. I wanted to be where days still mattered to someone, where mornings were counted, where saying good afternoon meant something, even if it wasn't returned. Most days are quiet, wheelchairs rolling, televisions murmuring to themselves, coffee cooling before it's finished. You learn the rhythm. You learn who likes their blanket folded just so, who wants the window open even in winter, who pretends not to wait for visitors. That woman in the elevator reminded me of myself in a way I didn't like. The way her eyes didn't ask for comfort, just acknowledgement. What would I say now? If I could step back into that moment, I wouldn't correct her. I wouldn't argue. I've learned that people don't always want hope handed to them like a brochure. I'd say this instead, quietly, honestly. Some days are still good. They just look different, smaller. And if you don't look closely, you miss them. I missed plenty. The mornings I could have lingered, the conversations I rushed, the afternoons I treated like obstacles between me and rest. I paid for that in loneliness later, not all at once, bit by bit. And then one more pause. These days my world is narrower. The same chair by the window, the same street outside, cars passing, lives continuing. I still drink my coffee from that chipped mug. I still keep the old phone even though it barely holds a charge. I still take the wedding photo out sometimes and smooth the corner where it bent. There are things that still hurt, certain songs, certain dates, the sound of an elevator bell. But here's what I finally understand, not as advice, just as fact. A good day doesn't announce itself. It whispers. It waits for permission. It's a nurse remembering your name, a stranger waving, a quiet meal that doesn't need conversation, a memory that doesn't stab, just sits beside you. I spent too many years thinking good days were behind me, that they belonged to younger people with louder houses. I was wrong. If you're listening to this and you're younger or older or somewhere in between, ask yourself one thing. What would you do differently if you stopped assuming you're already late? And if this story made you think of someone who needs it, share it with them. If you want to hear more quiet, honest stories like this, consider subscribing and tell me, what would you have said in that elevator?